All right, I think we're ready to get this thing started. Welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Jeff Bartles, and the session we're going to be doing here is called Bringing Your Ideas to Life, Creating Photorealistic Renderings Using AutoCAD 2013. Let me put up the class summary here real quick. In this session, we are going to be looking at the concept of rendering from a ground level approach. Okay, where this is a beginner's course. We are going to be covering a lot of topics, but I'm going to be making the assumption that you have not done any rendering to this point. Has anybody done any rendering to this point? Show of hands. All right, good. Well, all right, got a couple people. Perfect. As far as learning objectives, this is my goal for you. If all goes to plan, you will be able to, after this course, you'll be able to create and save a 3D view. You will be able to illuminate a model using sunlight or artificial light. We will also look at the material browser. AutoCAD comes stock with more than 2,000 photorealistic images, more or less, that you can take and map on your 3D objects. I'll show you how the browser works. We'll look at how we can search for items. I'll show you how we can apply those to our model. We will also look at how we can edit materials in the event shopping off the rack isn't exactly what we need for our project. We will also look at how we can manipulate the material once it's on the part itself. Take and shift it over, move it up, change the scale, things like that. Finally, we will talk about how we can take the renderings that we create and save them as a high-resolution image. Okay, really, when you're creating a rendering, you're a photographer. You're taking a picture of a virtual environment, one pixel at a time. Just a little bit about myself. My name's Jeff Bartles. I've been doing AutoCAD. I've been using it professionally for a long time. I go back to release 12, the first time around, back around 1995. Anybody go back that far? Fantastic. Always love to see that. Rendering wasn't quite so good back then, and we had the AutoVision, the render engine. Now AutoCAD uses the same mental array engine that's used in 3ds Max. It's just we don't have we don't have access to all the settings. So you can do more in 3ds Max, but it is really the same engine that we're using. AutoCAD for me is not just a software; it's a lifestyle choice. That's what I do 24/7. During the day, I work for a fantastic company called Seiler Instrument and Manufacturing. We're an authorized Autodesk reseller, and I provide technical support, training, and implementation services for AutoCAD, Civil 3D, and MAP. In the evenings, I work for evenings and weekends and late nights and when I should be on vacation. I work for another fantastic company called lynda.com. I've produced several AutoCAD video training titles for them. Okay, my approach for this session. We will be looking at the features with respect to rendering today on a need-to-know basis. What do you need to know in order to use these tools? By using that approach, we can cover a lot of ground. We're going to take and lay down foundation today that you can then take and build on later. By not going through every nuance of every command, you will have a better general idea of how these tools are used, and you'll be able to use them as soon as the class is finished. We will be creating all of our renderings in here for that reason. The things that we render will be small projects. We do that because small projects render quickly. Since we've only got 90 minutes together, we want to make sure things render as quickly as possible. But the skills that we learn in each of these lessons can be applied to models of any size. This class will also be presented from a training perspective. I'm an educator by nature. I prefer to talk about the hows and whys. I'm not big on philosophy and platitudes, and I don't do very good PowerPoints. So I would rather we spend our time looking at the software. One more thing, you do not have to take notes. I'm a big note taker when I come to AU. One thing I did was I made sure that the handouts cover everything that we are going to do in here step by step. In fact, every drawing that we look at in here is going to be available online. The handouts have a hyperlink that you can click on. You'll be able to download them after this weekend. Okay? It is my goal that after you finish the presentation, you'll be able to, a month from now, you'll be able to pick up the handout and the drawings and be able to work through it again just like we did here. Okay? My philosophy, And like I said, I don't like philosophy, but my goal was to give you what I would want if I was taking a course like this. So, we all good? Fantastic. We've got a very aggressive schedule. We're going to be, it's going to be a veritable educational napalm strike is what we're going to do. First thing we're going to look at is the concept of illuminating a scene using the sun. All right? Let me flip over to AutoCAD here. I've got just a simple model, little deck chair and a table. This is going to be an outdoor scene. Now, typically in AutoCAD we view our geometry from wireframe mode. Now this geometry is they're solid objects, so they reflect light. I've gone to the in-canvas menu here and I've changed the visual style to realistic. Okay, there are other choices here, but for right now I'm going with the realistic view. The first step in setting up for a rendering is to establish an interesting view. Okay, we can do that by orbiting around the model. I'm sure everybody's panned before. If you hold the wheel down on the mouse, you can pan. If you hold the Shift key first and then pan, you can do a continuous orbit. So this is how you can kind of manipulate your view around the part. Probably the most important thing with respect to setting an interesting view, you want your view to be perspective, three-point perspective. I can do that by right-clicking on the view cube, and I'll change this from parallel to perspective. Notice the difference in the view. It looks a little more dynamic. We have vanishing points now. Right-click, better 1, better 2. Okay? If you want your models or your renderings to look real, you have to do it via perspective. So let's say this is the view that I want to go with. I'd like to save this now. Saving a view is like putting a camera on a tripod. I can then work on my model, and when I'm ready to render it again, I can go right back to my camera and snap another picture. To save the view, I'm going to come over to the in-canvas menu. I'll come down to View Manager. I'll select New. I'll give my view a name. I'm just going to call this Final View. If you're like me, now you can create as many views as you want. And if you're like me, you'll have Final View, Final 2, Final Last, Final Best. So now that I've given that a name, the only other thing that's really important to do right now is to come down and remove this check that says Save Layer Snapshot with View. I do that because that will actually save the layer state. And if I create layers later and I restore this view, it'll turn those layers off. So it gets confusing. This way, don't save the layers, just save my position. I'll come down and click OK when I'm finished. I will then click OK again. Now, if I orbit my view, I can take and work on my model. Whenever I come back, or whenever I want to create my rendering, I can open this up, go to Custom Model Views, and I can select the view that I saved. Notice there's already a saved view in there. We'll look at that one in just a second. I'm going to select Final View here to go back. So let's render this once, look at it using the default settings. Now, let me say that I am working with a fresh install of AutoCAD. For that reason, I am currently looking at the Drafting and Annotation workspace. In order to render this, I'm going to open the Workspace menu and I'll select 3D Modeling. I will also go to the Render tab in the ribbon. Let me maximize this too. There we go. The Render tab is where we'll work. That's where we'll find all of our rendering tools. To render this image, I'll come up to the Render panel and click the Render Teapot. This brings up my render window. The render window is a lot like the interface on your digital camera. Okay, we can see the large preview area here, shows us our photograph. Depending on the speed of your processor, remember we're taking this one pixel at a time. The image may take a while to process, but this is where we'll see the image. Down below, I will have a running history of every image that I've rendered. Right now, I just have the one. Over here to the right, let me stretch this over a little bit. Over here to the right is my, essentially this is like your metadata. This shows you the render settings that were current when that picture was taken. This way, if I have several, I can start looking at my history and, what did I set there? And so it's a way of seeing what the settings were. Okay. So this is supposed to be an outdoor scene. Doesn't look very realistic just yet. Let's add some sunlight. I'm going to close the render window here. To add sunlight, I will come up to the Sun and Location panel and click the Sun Status toggle. That's all I have to do. I just turned on the sun. Let's render this again. Okay, now we're seeing some shadows. All right, here's where we have the history, where we were, where we are now. I'm going to close the render window here again. When you turn the sun on, we then have some sliders here we can use to adjust the sun properties. You can adjust the date. You can adjust the time of day. I'm going to drag this back to around 12 noon. I can also type in the time here. If you're interested in setting a geographic location, I can choose Set Location, Edit Geographic Location, and I could go through and assign a location via latitude and longitude. I could click Use Map and pick a general location. This way you can get while it's not a perfect sun study or shadow study, it will give you a relatively good idea of if you were doing a light study on an outdoor project, what the shadows would look like at particular times of the day. Right now this drawing's set to Las Vegas. So let me close these. And so we're rendering this again, Las Vegas at 12 noon. All right, so shadows are underneath because the sun is almost directly overhead. If I flip through the history, we can see the difference. Now, we're moving in the right direction. The shadows are a little dark. I'd like to make these lighter. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll open this menu right next to Sun Status. This will allow me to add atmosphere, okay, a realistic sky. I'm going to come down and choose Sky Background and Illumination. What that will do is not only give me a realistic sky with a sun, it will also take and it will allow the atmosphere to contribute to the illumination in the model. So it'll brighten everything up. I'll render this one more time. And you'll see that when it renders this time, it's going to go in a couple passes because it's having to do a few more computations this time. Runs through about 4 times. There we go. So now it's looking a little bit more realistic. Okay. Close this again. So sky background and illumination is very helpful. The next stage we can go, since we're adding the sky, you may be asking yourself, I know I did, if I was to look up in the sky, would I see the sun? Let me open my layer menu here for just a second. There we go. I'm going to turn off this layer called Brick Patio, so that's out of my way. And if I orbit this around and we look up in the sky, there's the sun right there. So the sun will show up in your rendering if it shows up within the field of view. So I'll tell you what, let's turn the Brick Patio layer back on. I happen to be underneath the patio right now. We'll change the current view to this one that I created earlier called Afternoon. This is just another saved view. And let's change the time of day to around 5 o'clock p.m. I'm also going to make sure that my sky is turned on. We'll render this again. Now it is dark because it's backlit, but you'll see as this comes around and processes, notice the sky's a little darker. As it gets to be evening, it will start giving you a dusk type appearance to the sky. And we can see that the sun disk does show up in the rendering. Okay. Now, rendering is a very iterative process. Each time you render, you look at it, you make some evaluations, make some changes, you take and render it again. Looking at this drawing, I'd like to increase the brightness. I'd like to make it a little bit lighter. And now that I've added this realistic sky, I've got a horizon here that's kind of gray. I'd like to make that green so it kind of looks like grass. Once again, I'll close the render preview here. Question was, am I adding to the file size every time I render? No. The history that we see in that render window does not get saved with the drawing. So that history is only good for this session. What I'm going to do next here, in the Sun and Location panel, I'm going to select this arrow. Anytime you see an arrow in the ribbon, it means there's a dialog box associated with those settings. Let me open this up. This represents our sun properties. As you can see, there are several things we can adjust here with respect to the sun. All right. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all of these, but one nice thing AutoCAD gives us are these pop-up tooltips. So if you hover over a setting, AutoCAD will give you more information. By far, the best way to learn how these settings affect your rendering is to change them. Do the rendering, and you'll learn a lot faster by doing that than you will sometimes reading through the help menus or the tooltips. One thing I'm going to save, let me address my sheet music here. I'm going to come down here under ground color. That affects the color of the ground that we see. Right now it's a really ugly gray. So I'll open this color menu. I'll come down here and choose select color. This is the standard AutoCAD color picker that we're used to. It happens to be on the True Color tab here. I'll select a nice green, and then I'll drag this down and control the darkness of that. Let's click OK. You can see how that affects the model. Let's come down here a little bit further. I'm going to change my disk intensity. I'll make that, this is the brightness of the sunspot. We'll make this 3. Okay. Let me move over and we'll take and anchor this to the interface. I'd like to do one more thing. I'd like to brighten up the scene a little bit. To do that, I'm going to open the Lights panel. And right here you can see that we've got some adjustments for brightness, contrast, and midtones. This is not like Photoshop. Okay, we've got some similar settings. We can use these to improve the quality of the rendering. I'm going to drag my midtones here up to, I'll just type it in to make it easier. We'll do 2.5. See how that looks. When I'm finished, I'll render this one more time. Okay, so what we saw in this session, we saw that we can easily save a view using the in-canvas menu. We saw that it's important, if you are going to save a view, you want to take and do it with the perspective setting. We saw that the sun can be applied by just adding the toggle. And we saw that we can take and add atmosphere and adjust some of the sun properties. Okay? Let me take and close this. There's a couple more examples of that rendering. In the next session here, I'd like to build on what we looked at before. We're going to take it a little bit further. This time we're going to talk about the materials browser. We're going to take and apply some materials to our objects. In this drawing, I've got an architectural scene. I didn't render or model the entire building. In fact, if I back up, you can see I've just got the corner of the room. What I'd like to do first, I'm going to turn the sun on. And when I do that, the computer asks me, you know what, if you're turning the sun on, do you want to turn off the default lighting? It's recommended. I'll do that for right now. We'll talk about what this setting really means in a little bit. I'll just take the recommended setting. And let's go ahead and render this. So, as you can see, when the sun gets turned on, it happens to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So the sun is here in the west. It's casting light on this western wall, which is projecting the room into a dark shadow. Okay? Let me close this. I happen to have a couple windows here. Our goal in this session is to put some glass on those windows. That way I can have some light coming through, creating shadows in the room. So, what I'll do is load a saved view. This is a view I saved earlier. I am going to turn on the sky background and illumination. We'll render this again so we can see the difference. Remember, the first time through, everything was in black, dark shadow. Even though this is an interior rendering, I can certainly use the atmosphere to help illuminate the scene. As this comes around, you can see it looks a lot better. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. The issue that we have here is the geometry is being rendered using the color of the layer. Okay? What I'd like to do is add some photorealistic materials to these objects. So I'm going to close the render window again. To add the materials, I am going to come up to the Materials panel, and I'll click the Materials browser. This brings up the utility where I can search from more than 2,000 photorealistic materials. Now, when the browser comes up, in 2013, it's got more of a streamlined look than it did in the past. They've made the samples here a lot smaller so we can fit more on screen. I like to look at this using more of a classic view, larger thumbnails. There are some icons here. I'm going to open up this icon momentarily. I'll change this to thumbnail view. Okay, you can see the difference. These buttons are very much like the details buttons that you see in Windows Explorer. Okay, that makes more sense. Let me open up the Autodesk library. So the materials that we have are organized by category. So if essentially what we do with this tool, we're going shopping. If I'm going shopping for a material, I can select a category like flooring, for instance. And then over here on the right, I will find a collection of all of the materials that are in that category. Now, I would like a flooring material for this rendering. I'm going to pull down here and I'll select this material called Beechwood Honey. If I hover over the material, we get an icon that I can click to add the material to the document. All of the materials that are loaded in the current document you'll find up here at the top of the screen. So I've got my wood material. I would also like to get a glass material, so I'm going to select the glass category. I'll choose this one, clear. I'll add that to the drawing. So very easy to go shopping that way. If you're looking for something more specific, there is a search area up at the top. Maybe I'm looking for chrome for the chair. I could go in the metal category, or if I just come up here and type chrome, it will sort the list for, it'll show me every material that contains that string, that text string. I'd like to add this satin material to the drawing. Note that if you do use a filter, it also filters the items that are in the current drawing. That's why I'm only seeing one now. If I close the filter, now I can see the full contents. Now, there are a couple of other materials here I'd like to get. I've got a paint color for the trim. It's called Cool White. This one apparently is so popular, there's 2 of them in the library. Let me add that. I've got a wall color that has the word sand in it. Since I've grabbed these before, it's easy for me to find them. We'll add that one. And I have another one. There's a fabric that I want to use for the chair. It's got the word pebbled in it. There we go, pebbled light brown. We'll add that one to the drawing. And I'll close the filter when I'm finished. Okay. So once you've gone shopping for materials, you can keep going back later. These are just some that I'd like to use right now. To apply the materials to your objects, we can do it via drag and drop. If I wanted to apply the wood material to the floor, I can click, hold, drag, and drop it on the floor. We'll apply the paint material to the wall. I'll drag it over and drop it on the wall. Let's zoom out a little bit. We can also go the other way. You can select your objects first. For instance, if I grab both of these windows, these are just solid objects. I can select both windows and I can come over and click the glass material. Okay? Now, this is okay, but the drag and drop and the selection method may be a little bit tedious in the event you have a bunch of small pieces, like all of the items here around the window. I can also apply materials via layer. just like we do color and line type. If I open the Materials panel, I can choose Attach by Layer. And in the dialog box, I see a nice listing here of all of my materials on the left and my layers over here on the right. I'd like to add this cool white material to the floor trim. To add the material, it's drag and drop. I'll just drag it over and drop it on the layer. You can probably guess that if you click the red X, you can take the material off the layer. So floor trim's getting cool white. The window frame is going to get cool white. The chair frame chrome, we'll bring the chrome satin over and drop it on that. And then the chair cushion will get the pebbled material. When I'm finished, I'll click OK. Let's reload that previous view. I'll make sure that my sky's turned on, and I'll render this again. As you can see now, we can, even though this isn't finished, we can see the lights now coming through the glass. It's creating a nice shadow on the floor, shadow on the chair. As this finishes up, it's not perfect. Like I said, it's an iterative process. The off-the-rack materials that I grabbed, I've obviously got a little bit too much gloss in my paint. Okay, I'm actually seeing the chair here in the wall, which is probably not as realistic as you'd like to see. We got a little bit too much gloss here on the floor, in my opinion, as well. So, but big difference from where we started. Let's close this, and we'll make some edits to the materials. If you'd like to edit a material, we edit materials just like we edit text. You can double-click on it. I'm going to double-click on the sand material to bring it up into the editor. The materials in AutoCAD are based, they've got real-world properties. This wall paint is based on real-world wall paint properties. So we've got options here like finish and application. I'm going to change the finish to flat matte. We'll close this. I'd like to edit the floor as well, so we'll just take and double click on that. You can also click the pencil. That'll work as well. Let's bring the floor material up in the editor. And like I said, it's real world properties, very intuitive. You know, I want to change this. What would I change? Probably the finish. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to go with an unfinished floor. That really shouldn't have any glossiness at all. We'll see how that looks. We'll take and render this out again. This time it should render faster because it's not having to calculate all of that glossiness, all the reflections. Question? Great question. Question was, if we change the material, are we messing up our library? No. Once the material's in the drawing, you can have fun with it. It's yours at that point. It's in your drawing. You can take and create. The question was, can you save your materials? Yes, you can create your own libraries. We would do that in the material browser. You can take and right-click over here, and you can create. You can take and create your own library. Now, I lost my render window. If we want to get that back, we can come down here and click. There we go. So that's where we were before. This is where we are now. Notice you can make you can make some evaluations here. How long it took to render. This one obviously rendered a little bit faster. Okay, but it's not bad. It's not difficult. And chances are, if you do conceptual design or architectural design, something like this may be exactly what you need, so where you don't have to go through the learning curve of moving everything into 3ds Max. Let's close this momentarily, and I'm going to... So, got a couple of where we started, where we left off. In this lesson, we looked at the materials browser. We saw that we could take and sort the materials, search for them using filters. We saw that we can apply them via drag and drop or layer. And we saw that we can edit the materials just by double-clicking on them, and we can change their properties. This image was created basically from that drawing. I just took and added a couple more chairs and a matching coffee table. Okay, not bad. It was rendered at the high resolution. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let me mention, I did not, well, most of the stuff I've drawn for the class, I did not draw these chairs. These were obtained off the Autodesk Seek site. So if you visit Autodesk Seek, you can get a ton of free 3D content. Okay, don't reinvent the wheel. Grab the stuff there and use that to experiment with. Okay, so we've looked at sunlight. This time around, we're going to look at using artificial lighting to illuminate a scene. Let's jump back over to AutoCAD. I'll close my browser and we'll open up another drawing here. This time around, I've got an abstract example. This drawing does have a saved view. Knowing what we know now, I'll open the menu, I'll go to Custom Views, and I'll choose Off Center. That's what I called it. Let's render this one time just to establish a starting point. Notice that when I rendered this, even though we don't have a light source in the drawing, we can still see the objects. That is that default lighting that AutoCAD was talking about before. It gives us default lighting as a courtesy, because if we didn't have the lighting, we would see nothing when we did our rendering. Let's close this. Since I'm using a realistic visual style, I can see the hotspots from that default lighting. Once again, it's here as a courtesy. It's really not real. As I orbit around the objects, you can see there are no shadows. The lights just ensure that we can see everything as we're working. Okay, let me reset that view. To add a light source to the drawing, we're going to real-world workflow. I mean, in your house, you've got a lamp with a light bulb in it. Okay, if you want to add an interior light, you establish a target where you want to put that light. We place it, and then we adjust its intensity. Okay? Let me open my layer list here. I have a layer in this drawing called Lights. Let's back up. I've got a pair of circles that I've created that are above my objects. I'm going to use these for light locations. Okay? To create a light source, I'll come down to the Lights panel, and I'll choose Create Light. Once again, it's asking me, like we talked about the default lighting, the computer's saying, do you want to turn off the default lighting? At this point, yeah, I'll turn it off. What I'm saying is, you know what? I'm taking charge of the light now. I'm putting in my own lights. So I'll place this light at the center of this target. And there are several settings here. We can change all of these later. For right now, after I place it, I'm just going to hit Enter and accept the defaults. And you can see that light is hot. Okay? That is because I'm dealing with a really small model and a really bright light. If you want to edit your light properties, we can do that through the Properties palette. If I select the light source by clicking on it, I can come over here and I've got to turn on my Properties palette. I'll hit Control-1 to do that. A little shortcut there. I'll anchor that to the interface. So the light's selected. Here's the properties. AutoCAD uses a real-world photorealistic lights. Okay, they have photometric properties. I'm going to call this light Overhead 1 for right now. It's a point light. Note that we can set the on-off status. That's kind of nice if you are adding multiple lights to a file and you want to turn things on and off. We can click the light, use the Properties palette to turn it off. Still keep it, but just don't use it right now. Okay? Is the light going to cast shadows? If I come down here a little bit further, here's where we have those photometric properties. By default, this light comes in with an intensity of 1,500 candelas. I'm going to knock this down significantly. I'm going to take this down to 15 candelas. When I hit Enter, notice the difference. It's dark on my screen. It's obviously dark on yours as well. We'll take care of that in a second. For right now, let's reload the view, and we'll render this out again. Okay, now our objects are casting shadows now. You'll find that the point light is probably the easiest light to place in a file. It's a ball of light that casts light in all directions. Okay, very easy to place. It's the light bulb concept. You'll also find that the first time you place a light in your drawing, the rendering ends up looking like the objects are sitting on your basement floor. You always have to have at least two, one to illuminate the scene and another one to make the shadows a little bit lighter. So let's add another light source. I'm going to zoom out, and to create another light, we'll come up and click the light bulb icon. I'll place this one to the center of this target. I'll hit enter to accept the defaults. Once again, I will then select the light, and I'll come over to my properties palette, and I can run through and dial this light source up to be exactly what I want. I'm just going to call this one secondary light. We'll come down here, and I'm going to give this one an intensity of maybe 8 candelas. Dark on screen. Okay, there are several other settings here. We can adjust lamp color. You know, if you want to start simulating fluorescent light or incandescent light, halogen, things like that. Okay. Now, before I render this again, let's address the fact that this is dark. All right. As soon as I said, you know what, I want to take care of the lighting, that's what I'm getting. All right. Now I've got a dimly lit scene here. To make this a little easier to work on, I'll open the lights panel and I'll click default lighting. This turns the default lighting back on. If I toggle that on now, everything looks great. Really, this is a good way to work because it doesn't matter what your lighting looks like in model space. The rendering will always use your actual light sources. Okay? So now I can see it well here, and if I restore this view again, we'll render this, and now you can see the shadows aren't quite as intense as they were before. Now, I'd like to do one more thing. This is nice. This is the way we were rendering out of, AutoCAD 14. We could do this. The one thing that was always difficult, the one thing that kind of kills the realism here, is the sharp edge shadows. In the real world, things sitting on tables, you really don't have a sharp shadow. It'll be soft. Let me show you how we can soften up the edges. We will soften the edges by adjusting the lights. Just the properties of the lights. I need to select each light. Now I could back up and I could select each of them, change it in the properties palette. Nothing wrong with that. Let me show you a faster way. In the lights panel, there is an arrow in the lower right corner. Arrow brings up a dialog box. This represents my light list. This is your one-stop shop access to your light sources. If you click a light in the list, it selects it in the drawing. So I don't have to go find it, okay? If I hold my Shift key and select both lights, now they're both selected. When they're selected, I'll come over here to Properties. I can see they're both selected. I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom to the Rendered Shadow Details area. By default, this is set to Sharp. I'm going to open this up and change this to Soft Sampled. Okay, that is the best choice to use. Nothing good happens from Shadow Map, all right? Try it sometime. Just remember I told you so. Anybody have an Atari 2600 when they were a kid? Your shadows will be that quality if you go Shadow Map. Okay. Let me choose Soft Sampled. I'm going to leave this to Sphere for right now, and I'm going to give this a radius of 0.5. What this will do. And I said we wouldn't back up and look at the lights, but let me back up. You can see what it does. It creates a sphere with a radius of 0.5. This will make the lights more diffuse, okay, which will create a soft shadow. And let me make sure that 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 is on both of them. Perfect. I will reload my view one last time, and we'll render this out again. When you go with soft shadows, the rendering will take a little bit longer, but it will look more natural. There we go. That's where we are now. That's where we were. Okay, better one, better two. So in this lesson, we look at point lights, probably the easiest light source in the drawing to place. We can place those at a target location wherever you would want to put a light bulb. Now, once we place it, we can adjust the intensity to our liking. All right. It won't be as easy as what I just showed here because you'll start adjusting it. You'll have to render it a few times. I've rendered these several times. That's how come I know what numbers to put in. You just start keeping the numbers that represent the nicest appearance. We also saw that the properties of the lights can be changed with the properties palette. We can even create soft cast shadows. And then the light list feature allows us to select those lights, even if we can't see them on screen. Here's another larger example. A few more pieces there, but just to give you an idea. And you can see the soft cast shadows. Here's the previous drawing that we saw before, completely illuminated with point lights. I've even put some point lights in the small hanging glass fixtures there. Those are just revolved shapes that are hollow, and then I applied a glass material. Put the light source up in there and the light's coming through. Okay. Now let's talk about how we can customize our materials. Because, like I said, shopping off the rack, most of the time when you pull things in, it's going to be close to what you want, but it isn't always going to be right on the money. We'll go to Open here, and we'll open up this one called Glass Study. In this drawing, I have a region that represents a table, so a nice flat surface to reflect light. I also have a bottle. This represents a soft drink bottle. It does have liquid in it, but because we're using a realistic view here, we can't see it. I'm going to change this to a 2D wireframe, and now you can see the geometry of the soft drink inside the bottle. Let's flip this back to a realistic view. So our goal in this lesson is to make this look like a clear glass bottle that's filled with orange soda. All right? I'm going to start by going to the materials browser. Let's go shopping for some materials. Right now, there's obviously none in the drawing. Okay, let me select Autodesk Library here. Now I have a couple of materials in mind. One contains the word checkered. Let me take and add this to the drawing. Here's a shortcut. Another way you can put the materials in the drawing, just drag them up here. Okay. To be honest, you can also drag them right from here and drop them on the part. Not only will that put it on the object, it'll also load it into the drawing. Now, I've got two now. Okay. So let me see if I can Control Z to take one of those out, just so it's not confusing. I need a glass material. So I'll just come up here and type glass clear. And I think there's a lighter one here. We'll take this one. I'll add that. And as long as I'm here, I mean, there's obviously not going to be a material called orange soda. So I'm just going to grab this one called clear amber. That's about as close as I can get right now. We'll add that to the drawing. I can always, this is my, I'll change it. That's my goal. So let's drag the clear light material onto the bottle. I really can't drag the amber material onto the bottle because it's going to hit the outside before it hits the inside. So let's do that one via layer. I'll open the materials panel here and we'll go back to attach by layer. We'll take this amber material and we'll drag it over and we'll drop it on the soft drink layer. There we go. Things are looking good. You can see I have a couple light sources in this drawing already, a couple of point lights. I'm going to restore the view. I've got a saved view already. We'll go back here to the in-canvas menu and we'll load that. And then we'll render this out and see how it looks. Now try and visualize what this should look like. Okay, should look like a clear glass bottle with like apple juice or tea in it. You will find that many times when you render glass materials, especially large solid glass materials, it almost always comes out black. That's because there's a lot of refraction going on. Okay? So, no problem. We can go through and just edit the materials and clean this up. So let me close the preview here for a second. To make the modifications to this, I'm going to try and simplify things on screen first. Since I'm editing materials, I don't want to have everything visible. I want to be able to edit and then look at just what I changed. Okay? So let's turn that soft drink layer off so we can just see the bottle. I will then come over here and we'll edit the clear glass material first. I'll double-click to bring that up. And in the materials editor, you can see that the first time we brought this up, we dealt with the wall paint, and we dealt with that flooring. This one obviously has many more settings. Okay? Some materials are based on real-world templates like ceramic and glass, wood, things like that. This material was based on a generic template, so it gives you access to all of the properties. If you look in here, you can see that the properties are categorized in these collapsible sections. If the properties of a category are being used, there'll be a check in this box. All right, once again, we don't have time to go through what all the settings do, but just like everything else, if you hover over these, you get a really nice tooltip that will explain what they do. I'd like to increase the brightness of this glass first. I'll do that by coming up here to the color property and let's drag this up to white. Notice how that updates in the drawing as well. We can see a little bit of a live preview as we change that. So that's white. That's as bright as it gets. I'd like to make this glass a little bit more glossy. So let's drag this up to about 88. And I'm going to go into the transparency properties. That happens to be open right now. And I'd like to change the refraction. Right now it's set to glass. I've found just through experimenting with this that setting it to alcohol works a little bit better. It has a little less refraction. Okay. Let's render this one more time. Okay, so we're obviously moving in the right direction. Bottle looks pretty good at this point. Now we just need to address the material that's inside of it. Let's close this. So to edit that material, I can double-click. Here's my problem. Notice the lack of settings that we have. This material was created using a glass template, so it has properties that are associated with glass. The one property that I'm interested in is translucency, which controls the clearness of the glass. And I don't have this with this particular setting. So I tell you what, let's make a material from scratch. If you want to make a brand new material, we'll come down to the bottom of the palette here. We'll click the new material icon, and you can see here's where you can take and create a new material that's based on a real-world template. I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom and choose New Generic Material. This creates a material that gives me access to every possible setting. So we'll start by giving this a name. I'll call it Orange Soda. We will then change the color. Yes, question? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. You know what? I'm not sure. I've never tried that. Tell you what, when we're done, you want to come? We can take a look, see if we can do that. I'm going to change the color of this. Once again, I've been doing some experimentation with this, so I'll be punching in numbers that work reasonably well, but rest assured I spent a little time evaluating, trying to get this as close as possible. I'm going to use an RGB value of 244, 86, comma 1. So there's my orange. I'd like to adjust the glossiness of this property. Now, the liquid doesn't have to be glossy because the bottle's glossy. So I'm going to take the glossiness down to about 12. I'd like to use the transparency settings. So we'll click, so that category is now being used. And I would like this to be transparent. We'll make it 41% transparent. I'm sorry, that's translucency. I want 41% translucency. As far as my transparency, I want that to be 43. There we go. 3 days at AU, I've had 11 hours sleep. So, and it's dark in here. I almost want to take a nap now after lunch. We'll do one last thing. We'll change the refraction. I'm going to change this from glass to water. And once again, we're knocking the refraction down a little bit. Okay. Now that we've dialed up the material, I can close this. Let's turn that layer back on so we can see it. And then we'll apply that material to the layer. So we'll go back to materials here. I'll choose attach by layer. And we'll just take our new material that we made and we'll drag that and we'll drop it on the soft drink layer and replace the one that was there. We'll render this out again. All right, still moving in the right direction. Things are looking a lot better. At this point, now I start getting picky. The glass looks pretty good along the bottom here. I've got some glossiness, but it kind of has a bulbous area here, but it looks flat. I'd really like some more detail on the glass. Likewise, it's very dark up here at the top, and that's because the glass is reflective. It's reflecting the atmosphere of model space is black. Okay, so what I'm going to do is apply an image to the model space background such that the glass has something to reflect. Okay, let's try that quickly. To apply an image to model space, I'll go right back to my in-canvas menu. We'll come down to View Manager, same place where we saved a view. Here's the view that I saved earlier. Final. I'll just select that, and right here I have access to all of the properties of that view. One of those properties is background override. Okay. I'm going to click this, open the menu, and you can see that you can override the background with a solid color, gradient, image. That's what I want to apply. Once this comes up, I'll click Browse. This lets me search my hard drive for an image. I'm going to select this one called Background Dots. Very abstract. Okay, it doesn't have to be recognizable. In fact, honestly, I would prefer it's not recognizable. All right, this just creates some reflections for the glass. Let's click Open, and that adds that to the background of model space. I want to do one more thing, though. We can see the image doesn't meet the boundaries. So I'm just going to come down here and click Adjust Image. And I'll change the image position here to stretch. Kind of like what you do with your Windows desktop background. Let's click OK. OK. I will then select my view and choose Set Current to take and reload those settings. And if I back up now, you'll see that you've got an image in model space. Let's put this view back. And we'll render this again. Okay, so by giving the glass something interesting to reflect, it gives us a few more nuances, gives us a little bit more of a dynamic look than what we had before. Okay, better one, better two. So now, actually, this the one on the left, this was the one with the amber. That's about as good as you can get with amber. That was rendered via presentation mode, so it almost does look like iced tea. So in this lesson, we talked about editing materials. We can take and grab from anything that Autodesk has to offer in the stock catalog, and we can take and dial those up to meet the needs of our rendering. It will, I don't want to lie to you, it is going to take some experimentation. The more you do, the easier it gets. And I have to say, rendering is an addictive thing because I can make that better. Let me take and render that again. No, I just tweak this, it'll be even better. And we also saw that if you are using glossy materials, if you apply a background to model space, you can make those much more, you can make the materials much more interesting. Here's a rendering. Saturation's kind of killed on the projector there, but you can see this is, this is the direction we could be going with that last project. What we're going to look at in the next two lessons is how we could actually place the images on the cap here, and how we could do the image around the bottle. We'll do some planar mapping and cylindrical mapping. Mapping to planar faces. Okay, I've got a brand new drawing here. Notice the background. Okay, what did I do in this drawing? I just applied a nice gradient to this drawing just to give it a nice blue color so we're not dealing with the black screen. Okay, I have a solid box. It represents, I've got some dimensions here that represent the size of a typical cereal box. I would like to map some images on the front, right side, and top such that this looks like a cereal box. Okay? We'll have to create the materials for that. These materials will be based on images. I took a cereal box, put it on my scanner, and scanned those faces. The trick to creating an image-based material is you want to define the material size based on the size of the object you're mapping it to. Okay? So if the front of the box is 10.75 by 7.5, you define your material at that size, you drag it on, and it fits perfectly. Okay? That's where we're going. To create the material, we'll start by coming over here, and I'll say New Generic Material. We'll call this material Box Front. All right? And I'm not going to assign a color. In this case, I'm going to assign an image to this material. I'll just click in this area. This brings up my file browser here where I can select an image. Yep. Question was, is there a feature for tile blending or tiling? Yes, there is. So if the image is smaller than the shape, it'll tile the image to fill the space. Yes, we'll see that in a second. Let me select Box Front here. I'll click Open. That applies that material or that image to the material. If I hover over this, we can see a small preview of that. Okay. Now I'd like to adding the image is one thing. Now we have to choose the size. To do that, I will click on this image preview to bring up the image editor. Let's drag this over a little bit. Okay, here's where I can adjust the properties of this image. We can do things like invert. We can take and adjust its position. If you adjust the X and Y, this is where you can start sliding the image over and up and down. We can change its rotation. I'll just change this to, heck, we could just drag this. Okay, the question came up about tiling. You can see it's actually tiling here. This is where we control whether it's going to tile or not. If I turn that off, then this image will not tile. Okay? So one nice thing, if you define your materials at the size that they're supposed to be placed, the tiling won't matter. It'll just go on, and you would never see the tiling. So I'm going to leave that on. The most important settings that we have here are the size. I want this to be 10.75 tall and 7.5 wide. I'm going to uncheck the aspect ratio so I can enter non-equal values. We'll make this 7.5 for width, 10.75 for height. And that's really all I have to do. Let me close the texture editor. We could go through if we wanted to start playing around with glossiness and transparency and reflectivity and things like that. But the image is really all I need right now. I'm going to close the materials editor, and now I will drag this material and place it on my object. Here's the trick. I'm dealing with a solid box. If I drag the material on, it's going to go on every side, and I don't want it on every side. So what I'll do is drag this over, and I'll hold my control key, and I'll release the mouse button when the control key is down. That will apply the material to a single face only. Okay, and you can see that that ends up mapping perfectly on the box. Question? Question was, would that work for the walls as well? You bet. You bet. To make an accent wall, you just take and drop it right on an individual wall. Yep, the trick is hold the control key, and when you drop it, make sure the control key's down. Okay, let's do the image for the right side. New generic material. We'll give it a name here real quick. Box side. We'll click the image property. I'll choose my side material, and here's where we can adjust its size properties. Once again, we'll take the aspect ratio off, and this one has a width of 2.3 and a height of 10.75. When I'm finished, I can drag this over, hold the control key, and I'll drop that on the side. We'll make one more for the top. We can even go quicker. These are identical except for the image. So you can take an image that's or a material that's in your drawing. You can right-click and choose Duplicate. Now I've got a copy. I can call this one Box Top. We'll edit this one, and I'm just going to change the image that's on this one. So we'll click the image property. I will choose this hyperlink that represents the source, and we'll choose a new image. We'll choose Box Top here. Perfect. Based on our dimensions, I can see that this has a width. Let's drag this down. This has a width of 2.3 and a height of 7.5. There we go. And we'll drag this one over and we'll control drop it on the top. As I zoom in, you can see we've got a problem. Okay? In the big scheme of things, the issue that we have here, if you look at my UCS, you can see that as far as the UCS is concerned, this, if we were talking about paper, this would be landscape mode. We defined that material in portrait mode. So that is how it's mapping on the object. To fix it, I have to rotate it 90 degrees. We just saw we could do that in the editor. If I double-click here on the box top material and then click on the image, we can come down here and change the rotation. You can see we could drag it if we want. It's live in the drawing. Or I could just come over here and type 90. Okay? So let's take it one step further. I have to admit that the first time that I saw this is how it was presented to me, and it worked perfectly. Then I tried to apply it to a real-world situation, and I had some problems. Okay? Here's the issue. In this drawing, every face is perfectly aligned to the X, Y, and Z axis. If your faces are perfectly aligned to an axis, the materials drop right where they're supposed to. Okay? What happens? I'm going to turn on box 2 here, and we'll turn box 1 off, and we'll turn off the dimensions. Here's another box. This one's rotated in 3D space. Now our materials are defined properly. Let's just drag these onto this box. Drag it on, control, drop. Drag it on, control, drop. Drag it on, control, drop. Well, that one went on good. The other two kind of look like skid marks. Okay? The way we fix these, we're going to use material mapping. Material mapping allows us to control the way our images or our materials are mapped to a face. If I open the menu, you can see there's a couple types. Planar, is it a flat face? Box, are you dealing with all sides of a box? We also have cylindrical and spherical. Really easy to use. This is a planar situation. We'll fix the box front here first. I'll choose planar. Now, which face do you want to fix? I'll hold my control key because we only want to select one. Control, click the front, and I'll press enter. That will register the material to that face. Now, if this was wood grain, or if it was carpeting or wallpaper, we'd probably be just fine here. Since we created a decal-like material, we can see that there are some issues, okay, that we have to fix. Notice there are grips on the corners. Okay, I can drag these grips around and change the way this material is mapped. It needs to be rotated. All right. In the lower left corner, I have a move gizmo. I could use this to take and move the material. If you ever moved things in 3D, it's the same gizmo. I want to rotate this material. If you right-click on the gizmo, you can switch it from move to rotate. This gives us the little spherical rotation gizmo. I then have a ribbon that defines the X, Y, and Z axis. I want to rotate this material around this blue axis here. Now, at this point, you would think you just type 90. You can't. Then you'd think, well, maybe we could use an object snap. You can't. You have to eyeball it. Ever since the 2007, in the older rendering engine, we could map this stuff on, pick the corners, put it right where we wanted. As soon as it went to the new system, it's been like this, and it's never really been perfect. Okay, the tool is kind of quirky, but you can make it work. Let me just pull this over. So you can see the boundary does not really match what we have here. Also notice that it's backwards. Okay, we can fix that just by flipping it using a different rotation axis. I'll choose the green axis this time. Okay, we can just swing it like a barn door. We'll flip this one around, and this time I could use an object snap because that happens to be in line. Perfect. Now that I have it the way I like it, I can go ahead and hit my escape key. All right. Let's do one more quick. We'll just do the side one here. Planar mapping, Control-click, hit Enter to square up the material. And then in this case, looks like we just have to rotate it. I'll select the ribbon, and I'll rotate this 90 degrees via eyeball. Question, it won't work with by typing in an angle? Not always. Not always, because the ortho is based on, that's a good question, would it work with your ortho on? The ortho is based on your coordinate system, where this is based on so the ortho isn't going to, because our UCS is still world coordinate system. So even though my ortho's on, you can see it's not, it doesn't care. Good question, though. Oh, man, that's a great question. In 2007 and prior, when you mapped a material on an object, it locked it to the object. You could rotate that object all day long, and the material stayed with it. With the new rendering engine, when we project the materials, it's like we're setting up a projector, like the one we're using here. We're projecting the material. So if I rotated this box, looks good until I stop rotating it. Okay, because the materials are still being projected from where they were. So I would have to go through and do it again. Okay, it's something quirky. That's the way it is. Hopefully one day that'll be locked down. But at this point, we take and play the hand we've been dealt. Okay.
Is that a solid? Is that box a solid?
The box is a solid. That is correct. Mm-hmm. A question was, does it have to be a solid? No. It could be a surface. It could be a mesh object. Yeah.
Mass element? Is there a mass element feature?
Question was is there a mass element feature? No. You an inventor guy? Is that an inventor property? Okay. No mass element. So in this lesson, we saw that we can make decal-like materials. We also saw that the trick to making a decal or an image-based material is you make it at the same size that you want to map it. That makes it really easy. We also saw that if the object isn't aligned nicely to the UCS, we can use the mapping properties to take and clean it up. Okay? Even though the tool's a little quirky, You can use it to map anything to just about anything. All right? Let's go one step further here. Let's talk about cylindrical mapping. In this example, I've got it's the Andy Warhol Campbell soup can. All right, I've drawn the soup can over here to the left, and I've got this is just a surface here, a surface that I extruded. That represents the label. What I'm going to do, let me tip this back, and we'll launch the move command here, and I'll just move this, and we'll put it into position. I've got some nice targets here. I'll just move it from the node here to the node there. There we go. All that time I spent modeling that can, can't see it at all. Looked great at first, though, so it was worth it. Let's create the material that we're going to map onto the label. So we're in the materials browser here. We're going to create a new material. Image-based. I'll call this material soup label. We'll click the image property, and then we can go shopping for an image. I'll choose this one. Basically, I cut the label off of a can and just put that on the scanner and scan that. So here's my label. Now, what size do I need to set this to? I gave myself some dimensions. Let me come down here and we'll remove the aspect ratio. I'm going to set the height to 3.6. And I'm going to set the width, which represents the circumference, we'll set that to 8. Okay, so we've defined the material at the same size that it's going to be used. Let me close this. Now, I will drag the material onto the surface. One thing I am going to do, I have had some issues where I've dragged it on and it ends up going on the tin can anyway. So we'll remove the tin can from the equation here for a second. I'll take the soup label, we'll drag it on and drop it. I don't have to hold the control key for this because it's just one face, okay? Now, when you drag it on, at first glance, you're like, man, that went right on there. That looks perfect. As you take a closer look, you can see it's not exactly what we were looking for. Okay, now if it was wood grain or something like that, you may not even notice. Wood grain, marble, something like that. Since this is decal-based, we're going to have to take and clean it up. Once again, we'll go back to material mapping. I'll open the material mapping menu here, and this time I'll choose cylindrical mapping. Select faces or objects. I'll choose this one, and I'll press enter. And once again, it doesn't look a whole lot better. Okay, let's take a look at this tool for a second. Here's our rotate gizmo. If I click this, this is how I could rotate the material around the object. Let me hit escape. You know, this is a good point. There is no undo on the material mapping. So as you're rotating, if you hit escape or whatever, it is what it is. Okay, quirky. So this is how we would rotate. There is a grip. There is a grip up at the top here. You could stretch this. All right, but in reality, let me hit escape and look at this. In reality, it is just fine. There is no problem with this. We can see that the height is perfect. It is going from the bottom to the top. The issue is in how it's being wrapped around the outside. Okay? Now, I have to admit, when I said that earlier that when you're defining a material, you have to define it at true size, technically I lied there a little bit. Okay? If you're going to apply the material to a cylinder, the width will always be 1. Okay? Lost a lot of hair trying to figure that out. Let me take and click on this, and we'll change the width. Notice it says scale. Okay, technically it's a scale thing. I'm going to change the width to 1. What that means is essentially 1 time around, seam to seam. So you've got 1 image all the way around. Knowing that if we were to set this to something like 0.5, then we would see 2 labels going around. Okay? So when you're doing cylindrical mapping, the width, height's what you would expect, width's always going to be 1. Okay? Let's jump out of this, and take and turn the tin can on. And just like before, this cylinder was really nice because it's nice and vertical. In the event you're working with a real-world situation, you may have, I've got a label here that's rotated in 3D space. Now, material's done. Let's take and drag this on and take a look. All right, not exactly what we wanted. So we're going to go to material mapping and fix this. Material mapping, cylindrical. I'll click this and press enter. And since it is facing away from me, I'll go ahead and use the gizmo here, and we'll rotate this around, and as you can see, it's absolutely perfect. This is like Presentation 101. You just take and close it, pretend like everything's fine, and move on. And then everybody talks later, yeah, I think that was backwards when he closed that. Okay? It is backwards. Unfortunately, there is no way to flip this. How do you fix it? You use an image that's flipped. Okay? Now I'm just going to edit this one. I could make a new one. I'm just going to edit this one. Let's click the edit property here, and I'm going to, we'll choose a new source. I just took in Photoshop and said flip horizontal to flip this the other way. Okay, so now this one's perfect, and this one's messed up now. Okay, so you have to, if you are going to be doing flipping, you do want to make a new material. All right. Fantastic. Let me jump back here. Ooh, yes. Sorry. That's Presentation 101 Part B. If somebody asks a question, get out of the drawing.
So when you're mapping that, the problem seems to be because it's relative to the old coordinate system?
Yes. You're going to ask me, should I align my UCS to the object? Correct? Oh. Mm-hmm. So question was, if I take and apply the materials, make a block out of the object, and then insert that, will that work? That may. In the past, that was one of the workarounds. I've done that in 2013. The problem I found personally is blocks haven't rendered too well. If you ever explode that block, because you wouldn't be able to edit that, as soon as you explode it, those materials all get messed up. Yeah. All right. So we've seen how to do some material mapping here, planar and cylindrical. Haven't been keeping up with the PowerPoints here. Trick to cylindrical is a width of 1. Basically, that was how this was made. On the cardboard carton here, these are just faces. I just took and flattened this on the scanner and took and scanned all the faces, took and mapped one to each side. The bottle caps, same thing. The material around the bottle, the same thing. Now this one, the glass bottle, what I did with the label, the label was an image that had the word crush on it. I cylindrically mapped that, and I rendered it twice. I rendered the bottle without the logo, and then I rendered it with the logo. In Photoshop, if you have the luxury of having Photoshop, you can take both of those on 2 different layers, put them on top of each other, and then you can just paint out the area of the logo that you don't want to see. Okay. There is another way we can do it with cutout images. Let me mention this. I did a session yesterday, which was essentially it's a continuation of this one. It was kind of scheduled out of order. So if you're interested, after finishing this one, if you're interested in going through some more tutorials like this, the course was AC 1607. It was recorded, AC 1607, and it was called Taking Your Renderings to the Next Level. So one other thing I can say about this, setting up for a rendering, as much as you can do to kind of mess the object up, that you'll get more realism if things don't line up real nice. The refrigerator shelf here and the object don't line up. Just doing that makes a world of difference. Making sure all the bottle caps aren't in the same direction makes a world of difference. Could have changed the level of the liquid in each bottle. Didn't think about that until just now. All right, but you can see having them all the same. Just any little nuance you can do to nick things up, add a little bit of damage will take and create realism in the image. All right. All right, let's look at one last quick concept here. In this drawing, I've got a car that I modeled. It's a pedal car, okay? From this direction, it looks like the whole thing's here. I assure you, if you bend this around, you can see some of the linkage is missing. Another philosophy I go by is don't render what you can't see. All right, if you can't see it, don't even bother with it. So here's my car. I do have a view in this. Let me go to Final Shot 2. You can see some of my methodology here. We'll render this quickly. This drawing does have several point lights in it. So I used the same workflow that we've seen up till this point. Added my point lights, I created my materials. These are all stock materials. I just took and dragged them onto the object. I've got a nice glossy paint job there. Chrome steering wheel. Rubber tires. This is what we're starting with. What I'd like to do is put some flames on the side of the car. Now, we could do that with a photo based on what we've seen right now. The problem is this part of the car is not perfectly aligned to the UCS. It kind of tapers in on the bottom. In fact, we're seeing a little reflection of the floor here. So might be difficult, especially if we had to put it on both sides. Let me show you how we can create custom faces. We've seen that we can drag an object onto a face just by holding the control key. What if I created a face on the side of this object, then I could just map the yellow material to that face? That's where we're going. What I'm going to do, I'm going to change my view here. Let's go to a back view, which based on the way my part is drawn, that is the back view. Let's go to a parallel projection. And this way I'm looking at that face perpendicular. I'm going to reload a layer state. I've got several layers in here, but instead of watching me turn things on and off, I'm just going to load a pre-made layer state. There we go. And let me change this to 2D wireframe so we can see it. There we go. So I'm looking at the car body from the side. Let's say that I established this view, and then I took and drew a polyline that represented the flames that I wanted. Let's take and turn on this layer called Body Flames. There's my polyline. Now imagine if I extruded that shape through the wall, through the body of the part. As I drag this over, you can see that's exactly what I did. I'm going to use a command called imprint. Imprint will allow me to imprint one object onto another. I'm going to go to the solid tab here for a second. There's an imprint tool. I'll choose imprint. We'll select the body of the car, and then I will immediately select this solid object. And I'll press enter. And then do I want to delete the source object? Oh, I guess I hit enter to say no. Let's delete that. I don't need it anymore. There we go. So we can see how that was imprinted. There are a pair of lines. That's because it's imprinted on the outside and the inside. This has a wall thickness here. So I'm seeing both sides of that face. The nice thing is this is now fair game. I can drag a material onto this. Let me drag this around quickly. And what I'm going to do is let's change the visual style here to X-ray. That way I can see the black paint and I can see the faces here. I will then come over here and create a yellow paint. Based on what we know now, we can just right-click on the black paint we're using, choose Duplicate. We'll call this glazed yellow. We'll double-click to edit, and we'll change its color. Yellow is 255, 255, 0 for pure yellow. Now that my material's been created, I can bring this over by just dragging it, hold my control key, and I'll drop it over the flames. And then always looks like it's going to lock up. It will come back. I say that, and this just gives me an opportunity to take a drink. There we go. Oh, no, yeah, there we go. Good, good, good. Got a little worried there. Got a little worried, lost my cool. So we can see that's on the side. Now, I didn't get all of it if I set this to realistic for just a second, notice the tips. There are some additional faces here. So I would have to drag this on 4 more times in order to get those extra little pieces. Not going to do that right now. Let's take and we'll put the layer state back the way it was. Initial layer state, and I'll restore that. I will also put the view back the way it was. And we'll render this out one more time. So by creating by using the imprint tool, we can easily create faces on objects to make it easier to map materials if we want to create interesting shapes on an irregularly shaped object. Last thing I want to talk about, we've taken a lot of pictures in here. We've done a lot of renderings. How can we save one of these as an image? Okay, since this thing works just like a digital camera, we have our history down here of previous images. If you want to save an image, you can right-click on it and choose Save. I mean, it's that easy. AutoCAD allows us to save these using several standard image file formats. I could save this as a JPEG if I wanted to, and we'll just save it here. We'll just call it car. If I click Save, since I'm saving this as a JPEG, I have the ability to adjust its quality. We'll just drag that up to best, and I'll click OK. So that's how we would save one out. By default, you can see that the output size of the image that we took is only 640 by 400 pixels. So it's small. Might look good on your smartphone, but if you wanted to make a big one that you wanted to print, we would have to increase the resolution. Let me close this. To increase the resolution of the rendering, we open the render panel and we can change that right here. We can choose the stock settings, or we can go to specify image size, and we can dial this up and type in whatever we want. My typical rendering is 1650 by 1080, which is the screen resolution of my monitor. Higher the resolution, the longer it's going to take to render. Okay, so you usually don't do the high resolution until last. Okay. Final thing, we've been rendering everything here using a medium preset, so medium quality properties. So although it will be high resolution, it won't be the absolute best quality we can get. If you wanted that, we would just take and open the menu and choose Presentation. All right, there is a Jeff presentation there. If you investigate the 1607 class, we talk about how to create those. That's even higher than the default high quality settings. Okay. We are just about ready to land the plane here. So here's a final shot at high resolution of that car. So in this session, we learned how to use imprint. We learned how to drag the material onto those custom faces, and we learned how we could save this out as a high resolution image using high quality. Your processor on your machine is everything. While it doesn't take a high-end machine to render, you can certainly render with an older machine. It's going to take a little longer. Okay. So we've got the learning objectives here. Basically, we ran through everything on the list there. We're not going to go through that one more time here. I won't make you suffer through that. Let me put up my contact information. If you have any questions or you want to get a hold of me, I would love to see any renderings that you produce. I'm a competition kind of guy. So if you send me a nice one, then that's going to be my focus for the next weekend. I'm going to have to take and send you one nicer than what you sent me. Okay? So help me be better. Okay? I will send it back to you. Yes, that's right. I will have to send it back. Right. I've also got my Twitter information there. I do have a Twitter account. I only post AutoCAD and Civil 3D tips and tricks. I promise if you follow me, you will never read about a bad restaurant food or that I'm stuck in an airport terminal, because I figure you probably don't care about that. Okay. And then the link is also here. This is where you can download the images or the drawings. Those will be available this weekend. So, thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the rest of AU.